Alright, Final Destination Bloodlines. Just seen that movie like 2 hours ago. And I'm going to do a non-spoiler slash spoiler double feature. The first half of this video is going to be non-spoilers. No spoilers. The second half, I will put up like a warning for the entirety of the second half that says spoilers. Because I want to get into the spoilers. Because I feel very conflicted on it after watching it. Mainly about the ending, but I'll get into that more in the second half of the video. So this movie, John Watts was one of the writers on there, and we love John Watts. You know, he did this Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy. He directed and wrote some of the Old Man with Jeff Bridges. So I'm just a fan of him in general. And it was funny when I saw his name in the credits, I was like, oh, that's right. That was like the main headline that brought it back. It was like John Watts working on Final Destination sequel, and I was like, that's sick. The directors, though, are Zach Lipovsky and Adam B. Stein, and I was looking through their IMDb's. Not the best history. The most popular things they've done is like a Fraggle Rock reboot, and then this movie, sitting at like 7 stars or more on IMDb. They did a live-action Kim Possible movie, which looks terrible, and it even has terrible reviews. And then the Zach guy did Leprechaun Origins, which was terrible. And he did the Dead Rising movie, the Dead Rising Watchtower movie, which was also terrible. You know, they don't really seem like the most qualified people to make this movie. You know, other than the ending, I really enjoyed what they did with it. So, like, the main gist of this movie is Stephanie is the main character, played by Caitlin Santawana. She is in college, and she keeps having this nightmare about the accident that you see in the trailer, you know, where they're at the restaurant in the sky, and people are, like, falling and dying and stuff. And she's having reoccurring nightmares about that over and over and over again, and it's ruining her college life and her personal life. She goes home, meets her dad. Her dad's excited to see her, but her brother's like, yeah, you know, even her cousins, you know, they're kind of giving her the cold shoulder because she's kind of been AWOL on the family for a while. She's going back home just to mainly figure out more about her grandma Iris, who was the person she keeps seeing in her vision in the movie, which of course you see in the trailer. And of course, mayhem ensues after that, but of course I'm not going to get too deep into it now because I'll do the spoilers later. But like I said earlier, the ending had me conflicted. The kills are good, you know, as you'd expect. They're creative. There's a lot of good misdirects as you're used to in the series, and I'm surprised that 6 movies in they can still misdirect you in like ways that they've done before, but you still fall for it, which is funny. At least I did. Stephanie, though, as a lead, I didn't really care for. She was kind of dull. I don't know if that was, I think it was more just the writing, you know, she did what she could. I also looked at her acting credits, and she hasn't really done much. I think this is her first like actual like feature like leading role. So I don't think this movie's gonna like make her a star or anything. I think she was fine for what she had, but compared to the other movies like protagonists, it's, you know, like how are you gonna beat Mary Elizabeth Winstead? You know, it's just, you know, it's gonna be kind of hard to do that. It's not a competition, but I'm just saying. And her brother Charlie, who is played by Tio Briones. I totally butchered that probably. The only thing I recognized him from was he was in the Chucky series. And it's just funny, like, the shit his character goes through in that show is like child's play, pun intended, to what happens in this movie. So I just think that was just funny. Because, you know, obviously in the Chucky series, he was way younger, and now he's like older. So I was like, is that him? I was like, yeah, it's him. But I just thought that was funny. I was like, you're just playing the same character from the Chucky show. But the brother-sister dynamic, I think, is fine. You know, it's got some heart to it. You know, you care. That's the thing about this movie is, like, the last one, I think the 5th one, more so of all the movies, you actually, like, kind of care for the characters. They aren't all completely annoying and you want them to die. And this movie is, like, the same thing, you know, like, they don't make all the characters annoying. They actually make them somewhat likable, and to an extent. And I wonder if that's just from like a younger leading cast. Like obviously in the other movies they were supposed to be playing like younger people, but they were like in their 30s and whatnot. So just seeing kids who are actually like these like age ranges, and you see them, because like you see kids like die, like straight up just getting murked. So I think like, you know, like if you're a parent, any kind of violence towards children, whether or not it's like, because like in the movie obviously it's played as like dark comedy, but it can be kind of gratuitous, you know, just the way the movies are. So if that stuff turns you the wrong way, I probably wouldn't watch this movie, because that'll probably, like I said, there's a few scenes of children dying. And I think the opening accident, which you're going to see in the trailer, is probably the most engaging part. And then after that, it kind of just goes downhill from there. I understand the generational trauma theme they're going with and whatnot. But I feel like if the whole movie took place like mid-century, like 50s and 60s, that'd actually be kind of sweet. Obviously for the story they couldn't have done that, but I feel like they should, kind of like how the Predator movies are playing with different timelines and stuff like that, and different time periods and cultures. They should do that with Final Destination. They should do that with all the slashers or horror movies, honestly. But Final Destination, like, seeing a Final Destination movie that takes place in like India or like Japan or just somewhere different and new, just seeing how different cultures, because obviously a lot of different cultures view death in different ways and different forms and whatnot. So that would be interesting to play with. I don't think they'll ever do that, but that would be cool. So I think right now the movie's sitting at a 3 out of 5 for me. It's just fresh, but again, the ending kind of put a sour taste in my mouth. But I enjoyed, most of it leading up to that part, so I can't take that away. So right now, 3 out of 5, I think, is a good score for it. The reviews for this movie are good. Like, a lot of people are really enjoying it, which is nice. Personally, for me, the ending was just like, it was like, come on, kind of ending, Spoiler time. It is spoiler time. Throwing the spoiler warning on the screen. We're about to start talking about everything spoiler related. So if you haven't seen the movie, go see it and then come back. Or if you don't give a shit, then let's get into it. So I'm just going to go ahead and start with the ending since I made a big fuss about it. Earlier in the movie, like, one of their cousins is talking to him about going to prom, and he asked this girl out, and she said yes. So this is the follow-up to that. They're outside his date's house, and the date's dad comes out, and they're like, oh, we love Charlie. And they bring up how, like, Charlie saved Stephanie when she drowned in the RV. But he was like, no, her heart didn't actually stop, blah, 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 because he's a doctor, and he says all these things, and then the realization hits, and they're like, we didn't escape death. And then the train tracks you see at the opening of the movie, of course, that fucking penny that has been around since like the 50s, that same goddamn penny manages to get lodged in the tracks, derails the entire train. This train plows through this neighborhood. Stephanie and Charlie are like running away from it, like, and then like the train stops and like, oh, we survived. And then like one of the rear cars slams in the back and throws these logs out, and these logs smash them and kill them. And I was like, and then it just cuts right to the credits. I was like, really? Like, that was the ending? I was like, I feel like they've done this ending like 3 other times in this series. It's like, oh, they escaped death. Just kidding. Another accident, and then they die right at the very end. The fifth one did that. It was the same thing, but the ending was a tie into the first one. Like, they got on the plane from the first movie, which was a cool twist on it. But this one was just like, that's how the fourth one ended. Like, they were sitting at the coffee shop, and they're like, we did it, guys. And then a bus just plows through and kills them and goes through the credits. So I'm like, so that's why I was just like, even when I was watching it, I was like, they better not do that same ending, And like, I was engaged too. I was like, all right, the mystery in this one is so much better than like the other movies, because they introduce some new things, and you're with Stephanie. You're like, I don't really know what's happening. The other movies, obviously, more than the characters do. With this one, you're kind of with her, figuring out why she's having this nightmare and why it's happening now and whatnot. But I don't know, the logs just it was just like a member berries moment for me. It was like, remember, guys? Remember the logs? Remember the logs from the second one? Remember the logs? Remember when we traumatized the whole generation of millennials to not drive behind a log truck? Remember, guys? So that just throwing the logs in there to come down, it was just like, that was a member berries moment. Just thought was kind of stupid. But again, just because the ending was annoying doesn't mean that I have to ignore all the stuff I enjoyed earlier in the movie. Like the main accident, I still think the bridge from the fifth one was probably like one of the best ones. But this one was also cool. Just, they're always good at taking advantage of the environment. And obviously, most people are going to fall to their deaths because it's a fucking restaurant that's like 200 feet in the air. And there's a restaurant just like that in San Antonio that I went to a couple years ago. And I'm afraid of heights too. So even me being up there, I was like, this thing's gonna fall over, which obviously it didn't. But so like when I saw the first like trailer for this movie when it first came out, I was like, no way, that's the accident they're doing. I was like, I'm never going into one of those restaurants ever again in my life because of this movie. Same thing with the MRI machine scene. Like I was already claustrophobic. I am not getting in one of those motherfucking machines, bro. I mean, I don't have any body piercings or anything, so I don't have to worry about getting my nipples and my dick ripped off, but I'm not going in there. Unless it was like life or death and I had to get the scan to stay alive. Then, maybe I'd do it. Maybe I wouldn't. Like, I'd be like, doctor, if I die in this machine, I'm gonna be pissed. It's like if I fucking burn alive in this MRI machine or I get ripped apart or something, I'm gonna be so mad. I'm gonna haunt you. The penny, first of all, in her vision, causes the entire restaurant, basically is the catalyst for the entire restaurant fucking falling apart and exploding. Which is, again, it's just ridiculous. The penny is the one doing all these things and making its way. It is funny how they showed the penny, how it transfers through different people over the years and how it stays in like the loop, and it makes sense how it comes all back together at the end and derails the train because the old lady buys the fucking lemonade. But I think like Iris and Paul, the main two in the beginning, their relationship was good. He proposes to her, she reveals she's pregnant. They put some stakes on the line. Again, characters that you somewhat care about. Obviously, there were a lot of other assholes in that restaurant that when they died, you were like, I don't feel bad for you. Kind of like the other movies when someone would die and you're like, thank God. But in this movie, again, the characters you don't. Some of them you want to see die. Some of them are like, you're fine. I don't really want to see you die. But Tony Todd's character is back. I don't know if this is like a full retcon. It's been a while since I watched all the movies. I think like in the other movies, it was like implied that he was dead because he would keep showing up to scenes. But I think now they kind of, not even retcon, they kind of just revealed he was the little boy from the restaurant accident at the beginning of the movie. And he's all grown up now. And he was like, now that Iris is dead, I kind of give up. And also he had cancer of some kind, which the actor Tony Todd did have in real life as well, which sucked. But that just seems what death seems to do. It's like even if you escape, like him and Iris, like we escaped, we did it, but I get cancer. So that just seems death's like, he's like, fine, I try to go all these work to give you all these cool kills, I try to give you these Rube Goldberg deaths, but y'all are so ungrateful and try to stay alive. So now I have to get you with cancer. Another thing is there's been a lot of it in all the movies, but the CGI blood was just way more noticeable now. Like the CGI gore, some of the kills kind of took, like the dump truck one where she was like in the back of the truck getting crushed. It was intense, but then like once her head got smushed, it just looked very like video gamey. It just did not look very good. So it kind of took you out, or at least took me out of some of the kills. I think the best scene was when Eric was trying to kill Bobby with the peanut butter allergy so that he could bring him back and cheat death. But then of course, like I said, the MRI machine turns on and there's no way this is real, but it like the magnetism keeps increasing and it goes to like 500% or whatever, and it starts ripping his nipple rings off and his nose ring and his cock ring off, and then this wheelchair hits him from behind and he gets stuck to the MRI machine and he like gets folded and stuck inside like a turkey. it was just insane. And then Bobby's there fucking, he's like and of course Eric had the EpiPen, so he's got to crawl across the floor to grab it from his like his severed arm, and so he injects himself with it and he stands up. And this one nurse is like, her keychain's like flapping and the magnet's like attracting her keychain, so she kind of goes into the room and Bobby hits himself with the EpiPen and he's like, oh, thank God. And then the vending machine earlier that wasn't working, the little spring where they holds the candy shoots off into his head and the magnets are still making it spin, so it's like spinning in his head like his dispensing blood. I thought that shit was kind of crazy. Also, the guy who plays Uncle Howard, I don't know if they were wanting to get like Rainn Wilson to play that role because he kind of had those vibes, but he really nailed like the cool uncle kind of vibe. He could be the jokester, the funny guy, but he can also be serious when she's like asking about Iris and he's like, that woman is insane. She's dangerous. You need to stay away from her. But I'm glad that most of the cast, obviously I recognize that one guy from Chucky, but other than that, most of the cast is pretty like unrecognizable. Not in a bad way, but just I feel like in some movies, like if you had like an A-list star in like the MRI scene and it was like just because he's in the horse with Bruce Campbell, just for whatever reason, just say one of the main characters was Bruce Campbell and he's like getting folded into an MRI machine, like you'd just be like, why is Ash from Evil Dead? What the hell? Like, just sometimes when you see, no matter how good of an actor they are, you just, at least for me, you just see the actor. It's hard to do the disconnect. I really enjoy Uncle Howard. He was one of the characters where it was like, oh man. But I mean, you saw him die in the trailer anyway, so that was spoiled anyway. Another thing about the ending, like Stephanie and Charlie, like all these people who have died in the movie, where they're like their cousins, their uncle, their mom, like their birth mom died. 5 days later, they're just like going to prom. Like, I feel like I wouldn't be going to prom if my entire family just got wiped out. Right? Maybe you would to escape it, but it was just like every one of your family members is just died. Like all of them. Because I feel like Aunt Deborah survived. She kind of leaves at one point in the movie, and then you never see her again. So I don't know like what her deal is, like what happens to her. She kind of just disappears and never comes back. But again, it is a Final Destination movie. You're not meant to put that much thought into it. It's just a gore fest that you're supposed to enjoy. Watch all the cool, unique kills they do, and all the tension and just the weird ways they come up with this shit. Like in another Final Destination movie, like I was saying about the different cultures, how they view death. In another one of these movies, it'd be cool to see death instead of death just being like wind chimes moving or just like water spilling and electrocuting things. You actually see death in some kind of form, whether it's his like goat man form, his like skeleton form, or like just like a shadow demon form or something. You know, like they could lean more into the horror aspect of it, because I feel like it's more like thriller. Like these movies aren't really horror movies, you know, like they're like the Saw movies where it's just like gore. The Saws are definitely more darker and gloomy and less dark comedy like these movies are. Last thing about the ending, but when Stephanie's in the RV and like the seatbelt button breaks and she can't get out, and like you can get out of a seatbelt without unbuckling it. If you really wanted to, you could slip out of there. If you really tried, you could just slip out of there real easy. But of course, you know, it's a movie, so we have to detention, and you have to, because otherwise she wouldn't drown and he would save her, and then you wouldn't think that they escaped death. But then you already, at least I already knew where the ending was going, and so I just thought it was kind of ridiculous. She was like, "I can't get out." I was like, "You literally can. You can just push yourself, slip out of there." Just how much I've been ranting about the ending makes it seem like I don't like this movie, which again, I enjoyed 85% of this movie. It was again just like the ending, because the whole movie it's building up and it's just like, wow, okay, they're doing something new. The ending is gonna be different. And I was like, nope, the ending is the same as like the fourth one and the third one and the fucking first one and the fifth one. You know, I think the second one is the only one where they actually like survive. I was like, it's just the same as every other movie, the same ending. So that was kind of a bummer. But again, the kills are cool. There's some memorable scenes like the accident and whatnot. But yeah, just the ending just bugged me. It just bugged me. You know, we waited 14 years for a new movie and they couldn't come up with a new ending. Comment down below if maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm just completely missing something and I sound like an idiot. Comment down below if I missed something. So yeah, let me know down below. Did you see the movie? Did you like the movie? Did you not like it? Why? Hit the like button, subscribe. Peace.